This is Smooth Jazz Saxophone Lessons back at you again. I am Daryl Merle. I started a 9-week course in which we'll go over a lot of the foundational principles that you would need to play smooth jazz or gospel. And I did the first group lesson this past Tuesday, and I had to send everybody a video from Google Meet that I should have recorded, but because I made a mistake of not hitting stop and getting out of the meeting before it processed, I did not have the video to send to my students. So I had to sit down and kind of do a recap video of some of the things that we went over. So I wanted to share that with everybody today. So the next available group lessons will be July the 9th. We do them every Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for 9 weeks. The next group lessons that'll be available will start July the 9th. We do them every Tuesday at 7:30 for 9 weeks. Contact me for more info on those classes. So without further ado, I would like for you to grab some of the principles that we learned in the first class, and this is also the video I'm sending to my students so that they will be able to recap what we went over. I hope you enjoy some of the information, and let me know if you're interested. You can contact me by way of my website, and also you can contact me on my Facebook community, Smooth Jazz Saxophone Lessons, and I can go ahead and get you. If you're interested, let me know. Without further ado, we're going to get into the lesson recap. The first thing we went over was daily care, and we talked about with daily care, which you're practicing, you have to be able to get the moisture outside of your saxophone. So it's important to have some type of swab that you could take through the saxophone to get the moisture out. You also could use something similar to this that you could stick in there. Some texts don't prefer this, but this works as well. They say it holds the moisture inside your sax, so for the long term it may not be the best. So that's something you can do. You can also take a rag like so and wipe down every place that you have touched, from playing, because there's like some type of acid on our hands that will cause your saxophones to lose some of its lacquer over time. So you wiping it off is a good thing. Other maintenance tips I talked about was taking your horn to the shop every 6 months to a year, because you're gonna have a leak, you're gonna have something, and it's easier to pay a little bit of something and make sure everything's working properly than to wait till you have a major problem and then having to spend a whole lot of money because you didn't take the time to get that in check. Weekly care. I talked about cleaning your mouthpiece. You know, basically getting inside of there, even with one of those type things, a swab, or running some soap and water through there. I mean, there's some things you do to make sure you can keep the things clean inside of your mouthpiece. I talked about reed placement, and I talked about how, like if you can see on my reed right now, let me see if I can get it closer to the camera. It's slightly, here you go, past the tip opening. For me, that works better. It also kind of makes it, to me, more punchier and maybe a little bit brighter. You can pull that back a little bit by literally pulling the reed down to make it even, and it may make it a little bit warmer to you, maybe less punchy. And then you can push it a little bit further back to even pass under the tip, and you may like the resistance that you get for there. You may like the darker tone. Those are some things that you want to try to ensure that things feel comfortable for you, and you're getting the kind of sound that you're thinking that you might want to get out of your setup right now. So those are some things you can try. Also, it's important to note that you need to keep this thing even, both sides even, because if it's off, it's going to make it hard to play because the wind is not going to go straight down into it and vibrate the reed properly. All right, your ligature, it needs to be placed down properly on your saxophone, so that you can so it can vibrate and look right. I mean, like if you have this too high, it could not play right. You have it too low, it could not play properly. But then again, there's times where your setup where a little lower might be better for you on the particular mouthpiece you got. So you can try those things. Another thing I went over was the circle of fifths. I talked about the circle of fifths because I said that it was important to learn your scales may be this way because it would be an easier approach because you could learn one scale and then gradually make it harder by adding a sharp or a flat. So if you go to the right side of your circle of fifths, the first thing you have is, you start in the middle, you got the key of C. Do that again so you can see. So that's no flats, no sharps. So the next scale, major scale that you need to learn would be G. And I talked about the importance of knowing all your scales because you really don't have a basis of knowing what right notes you can use in a song or in a situation when you don't even know what scale you can use. And even if it's a more complicated one, you still need to know what scales, which we may call changes in music, is happening so you can know what are the good notes that you can use. A scale is a group of notes that work well together, basically. So these is our major scales. This is definitely one of our starting points. If you move to the right of the circle of fifths, you'll get the key of G, which adds F sharp. If you were moved to the left, you would have F, which would add one flat, which would be B flat. And so this would be a good way to attack learning the scales so they gradually get harder. Go start on maybe the sharp side and then maybe go back up and start from the one flat side until you conquer them. So key of G, for example, one sharp. The next progression from there would be key of D, where you got two sharps. So now you got F sharp. So you got all the same. So you got C, no sharps, no flats. You went to F sharp. You took out one note, F, and you made it F sharp. Okay, now you go to the key of D. You keep everything you had in G, but now you take C out and you have C sharp. And so you can see how you could gradually build upon what you know instead of just jumping to something that's totally different. Key of D. Now, another thing that I suggested to you over time, you want to get this stuff in regularly. You want to be consistent so you don't get slack on it. Oh, I got that, and moving right along. You're gonna need it. You got to keep touching it. You got to stay consistent. So one exercise that I do is I play from the one, which is C. Like if you were to count the scale in numbers, you have C, 1, D, 2, E, 3, F, 4, and so on and so forth. Well, if you go past the octave, which is the next C up from the C that you start from, then you could actually call some of the numbers past that like 2. I mean 9. But 9 is really a 2 because 2 is D, right? So one thing that I do is I practice up. I run my scales up to the 9 and then come back down. And I either go back down to the 1, which is the home key, or I go chromatically, which means I'm taking my keys or my notes chromatically up to the next note, like C. Then I might go to the next scale, C sharp. Then I might go to D. So the chromatic scale, for example, before I tell you how to do this exercise, sounds like this. So you're going one note after the other, chromatically, meaning the next exact note, nothing with a scale. So whatever note you start on, if I started on low B flat, then I go from B flat to B, then I go from B to C. So I brought the chromatic scale up because that will help you learn, get a good foundation just knowing your notes. So that's a good thing to learn. So I talked about, and I also showed y'all a chart, which I'm gonna try to put some of this stuff in the email, pictures of some of these things so that you can practice with them. So sometimes I'll go from the 1 to the 9, back down to the 1, or I'll just change keys and go to the 1 of the next key so I can practice all my scales fast. So here's an example of that. I'm starting to key of C. So that will be the end of that one. Then I go to C sharp. me skipping the keys would sound like this, like changing my one to the next, to the one of the next scale when I come down is the way I would do it faster. Now you'll notice you would have to take some more breaths. I use a thing called circular breathing, in which basically what I did, I'm putting air in my cheeks, like, and you know how you make little noises when you were a kid. Use those muscles to kind of push air out from your cheeks while you're taking air in from your nose. So that's another lesson for another day. But if you're wondering how I was continuing to keep that going, that's how. We talked about, I gave you a major scale chart so that you could see the notes and actually practice that. So I'm going to send that to you. And I actually had the scales written out, send that to you. I had a fingering chart for you to send. And now I want to get into, so the last thing that I had you guys to do was to give me two scales, two major scales at least, homeworks in the video so I can hear you play and critique your actual scales. That's where we was kind of starting at. We want to build a great foundation to do more complicated things and hit other complicated issues. But if we don't build a good foundation, then we don't have that with this. So that was the purpose of this. So I'm going to be checking your homework. I'll see you guys on Tuesday. Peace. So I hope you enjoyed that. So, hey, I hope you enjoy that information. Please like, share, and subscribe if you love content like this. And also, hey, run to Facebook and be a part of the Smooth Jazz Saxophone Lesson community, where we're able to like fellowship and talk and share videos with each other a lot more than we can on YouTube. So hey, follow me there too. Till next time.